take a deep breath and let it out slowly and think about how that actually feels. Because today we're diving into something deeply personal and profoundly impactful: overcoming chronic pain and reclaiming your physical function. But we're not just talking about stretches and exercise, we're exploring a powerful, often overlooked tool: the breath. Think about it: the gentle rise and fall of your chest, the subtle rhythm that underlies everything. And it's not just about your breath. Consider your loved one, perhaps navigating the complexities of dementia. Observing their breathing, their posture, even the subtle changes in their environment can unlock new ways to connect and understand their experiences. Join us as we explore how the simple act of mindful breathing can be the beginning and the key to unlocking relief from chronic pain and improving how we move and engage with the world, and even deepen our connection with those we care for most. Welcome to Fading Memories, your source for all things dementia caregiving. I'm your host, Jen Fink, and I have had 3 generations of loved ones with dementia, and I'm here to share the knowledge I've gained with you. Welcome back, listeners. This is Fading Memories podcast. I'm your host, Jen Fink. Today we are talking about overcoming chronic pain and improving physical function. This is both for caregivers and our loved ones. With me to discuss that, because obviously you know that's not my thing, is Peggy Honig. Peggy is a mind-body work specialist with 18 years or more of experience. She's been helping clients overcome chronic pain, post-surgical limitations, and neurological conditions. She's a certified practitioner of the Feldkranis method. She's going to have to correct the pronunciation on that one.
I will,
her integrative approach combines somatic movement, for the love of God.
Oh, I'll tell him. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. I'm butchering her intro. So
Not at all.
Thanks so much, Peggy, for joining us and rescuing me from all my verbal blunders this afternoon.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. So I will let you tell everybody about you, because I was doing a poor job.
No, you're doing the best you can. So thank you. First of all, Jen, it is lovely to be with you. Thank you for inviting me. What got my passion 22 years ago, because I had other careers, was when all of a sudden I was hurting. And our wonderful medical model and all of the other approaches were doing nothing, modalities, to help me. I was stuck. And I got scared because I said, there was my own history, my familial history. So I said, all right, I'll try everything and anything. And that's when I was introduced to the Feldenkrais method, which is named after Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais. He was a PhD, high learned genius. And it was my first hands-on live session, not massage, not PT, not a modality, but it's a dynamic learning system where I felt touched in such a way that I wasn't judged. And I was feeling there were possibilities, that whatever I was coping and dealing with, because let's just say physical pain. The minute there is physical pain, it affects every aspect of our being. And there are different people that will speak about George Gurdjieff from the 1860s spoke about the human potential. The human or the physical level is the most superficial, mundane, but it influences your mental, emotional, and spiritual capacity. So the minute you incrementally improve one aspect, exponentially improves everything else. And that's what I noticed. Little things like I was breathing freer. I would then, after that first session, when I left, and I was so excited, and there's that glitch again, I just was able to not go, it didn't work. It was like, calm down, slow down. Find where you are. Stand, breathe, shift weight, and move slower. Because when we go fast, we're going to tap back into, not that it's wrong, our hardwired habits. Mm-hmm. Our hardwired habits develop for a very good reason. And that's what I want to tell people. Don't get rid of them, because they were perfect when they developed in that situation. But then those situations change. We didn't compare and find other options and possibilities. As I shared with you in our pre-talk, I use a lot of metaphors and analogies, and hopefully people understand when I go, all roads lead to Rome. Sometimes we're stuck on that one pathway. That's the way I go. And we never stop to think, well, it's not working. So maybe just a step over to the side, but find another pathway. And we get scared because we don't know it. We want to stay with our known. But if it's not working, create a new habit, a new pattern. And I say this, if it is easy, it's efficient. If you feel it's difficult and it's hard and you're pushing into resistance, it's not efficient. And that's where you're creating more heat, friction, irritation of the structure, wear and tear that over time, untapped into, you start to create deterioration. Eventually, it's a pathology. Do you break the toys? Do you cross the tipping point? So I was always, because of my history, very attuned to how to learn. Especially, one, recognize where you're good, where it's just innately a gift. Go there, but use those strategies that work where it's just easy and apply them where it's not. Just little baby steps. So Dr. Feldenkrais began, he was so learned, but he said, he was thinking about people like Freud. You go into resistance. You're demanding, you're dictating, you're going direct. And a human being will usually, unless they've just given up, they'll resist. So you're constantly, resistance begets more resistance. So you want to find where is it that there's that dance, that communication. So he started to recognize everybody wants to get fixed. Everybody's got a problem. This is hurting. This is that. And if our medical model, as wonderful as it is, could fix you, well, then we wouldn't keep looking for why the pain is still there, or I did my exercises, or I did what I was told to do, or I did the surgeries when I'm not against. But were we really comparing? So he said, I'm going to go back to the earliest days. It started in utero, postnatal. We learned through our sensory apparatus. And then that helped develop our higher brain. Well, we now know there are three brains. Science was like, no, there's only the brain in your neocortex. No, a brain is something that produces hormones, neuroreceptors, neurotransmitters, and communicates. So we know now we have one here in our brain, one in our heart area, and one in the lower gut area. And I often speak about these spheres, you can call them balls or spheres, our skull, our chest, and I don't refer to it as a rib cage, because think of a cage, but of a basket, and our pelvis, all interconnected by our spine, that are communicating up and down, up and down. So he went through how we developed as infants. And his wife at the time was a pediatrician. She also had some health challenges with her hip. I don't know whether it was dysplasic or what the issue was, but he would witness healthy babies and those that weren't, and how you found your way in because they're alive. And he witnessed how his wife learned how to adapt and modify instead of constantly forcing. And that got my attention. And then after I had done maybe 4 private sessions in 1 month, I said, I got to do this, because this was so amazing what it was bringing back that I thought was futile, hopeless. And there was the belief that I could learn and create new options and possibilities with ease instead of constantly pushing into resistance. So that launched me into my new career 22 years ago. My first career was an opera singer, a heart's passion. When that finally came to an end, because I was frustrated being a starving bohemian artist all over the road, and I finally went, I'm starting to feel resentful. You better listen, because it was first, I can't not do this. What are you talking about? I can't, this is my purpose. And then all of a sudden, that changed. I said, it's time to leave, find another passion. And I was innately very skilled in culinary, put myself through conservatory doing culinary. And I had a friend at the time, say, would you please do on my wife's birthday and holiday party, and we'll give you some funds, we'll pay for the food. I said, of course I will. And people kept coming to me going, I need your card, I need your card. And that's where it started. You don't do catering and event planning by yourself, everything, and not take a huge physical hit, which I did. And that's when I started to go down the tubes, physical, because I'm an A-type personality. I was very athletic, fit, and I thought I could do everything and anything until you hit a tipping point. And then I did everything that the medical model and all the modalities would offer. Wasn't changing anything because it was still pushing into resistance. No pain, no gain. Do your reps and sets. Be a good student. And then I found Feldenkrais, which I knew about because I had already been in trainings. I had trained with Tony Robbins. I had gone into doing hypnotherapy and mind work. And I said, I need the body in it also because legally you have to. The Feldenkrais method became the Feldenkrais method when Moshe was brought to America. And it was America that said, oh, we're a litigious society. We have to have this trademarked. So he went, well, Ida Rolf, he was dear friends with her, Rolfing, okay, or Alexander, M.F. Alexander, okay, use their name, call it the Feldenkrais method. It was his name, Feldenkrais. It was a Germanic name, but he came from White Russia and walked across White Russia to the Mediterranean when he was 13, 14 years old, fleeing so that he could get eventually his family out. It's a long story. He was genius. But this was one of his real gifts. And it was because he needed it for himself when the medical model couldn't help him. So that's a whole other story. I don't want to take the time with that. But I do want to share because your focus here is when people are dealing with neurological issues of the mind, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's dementia from Parkinson's, any place where our brain is not functioning the way it used to. There are strategies. And we can't necessarily fix, but we can continually improve little baby steps. So this is a conversation not just for the people that are suffering from these maladies that do exist, but also for the caregivers, because we're all caregivers.
Yep.
When we fly on the airplanes, what do they say? If you are a caregiver for somebody else and the oxygen mask comes down, put it on first, because if you pass out, you can't help anybody else. And as caregivers, and the reason why I'm sharing this now is because what I didn't share with you before, my history, is I was born to a mother that was already ill. And we didn't know it I didn't know until I was much older because it was hidden. You don't discuss these types of things. But she had, at that point, what was called progressive acute multiple sclerosis. And they misdiagnosed it. So it started a whole habit and pattern. So as far back as I can remember, as far back, I was a caregiver. And there are prices you pay when you physiologically are not really sound yet to do things, but you have to because that's life and you do them. I look at all of it as a gift versus, oh, this happened to me. No, it is a gift that if we can learn and learn from and find other options and possibilities and grow through, we keep improving. So that's what I offer people. When people come to me, I have two different types of people. I have someone I call a student. They get absolutely, I got to know more about this. And then I don't want to just tell them, you have to have an experience. Because I, like you, we have our own experiences, our own thoughts, our own beliefs. Nobody else can have them. So how do I communicate with someone respectfully and try to support them without destroying myself? So in Feldenkrais, I have the students and I have the clients. A client is someone who goes, oh, Peggy, God, this is really hurting. I don't know why. And I can share why. It's not, to them, it's elusive. To me, it's totally obvious because they're not in themselves. Everything is outside of us. And with all the devices now that we're using, we're also creating structural issues that are deforming our skeleton that was meant to be upright and in the vertical, balancing. It's not, no straight lines, no straight anything. So I just got really passionate and I got curious and I started, because of my passion, my curiosity, learning more and more and starting to realize I'm personally getting my own results to the benefit, and I'm facilitating for others getting their benefits. Even if it's just the client, come and have a session when you want, and then leave, and then you come back again, I need another fix. That's what they call it. To me, I don't challenge them or judge them, that it's just like, this is enough, just take care of me that way. All right. But for those that get really curious, exponentially, everything starts to improve. Everything. So, and I get results and I see it happening. I went further in the training track. So I help train people who want to become practitioners. But I have a lot of mature ladies and people, they don't want to become practitioners, but they want to learn so they keep improving the quality of their life. Because I'm working with people that are not only just some of the younger ones, you know, they've got families, some of them have special needs. They might not have the resources or the time. But I'm also working with people that are 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and I work with them and their life keeps improving. And I've worked with severe neurological issues, and people say to me, infants, how can you do that? Oh my God, it's so sad. I go, they're alive. And if exponentially I can improve the quality of their life, they breathe better. Maybe we get them off of a feeding tube. Maybe the doctors that said they should not have been resuscitated, and they were, they may not live an absolutely normal life like we would call, but it's a quality of life and they have happiness, they have joy. So why should we take that away from them? There is a pathway of learning, but we have to become learners.
Well,
And
and
if,
lifelong learning is so important to cognitive health. So
yes,
you're doing
yes,
yourself a benefit with all of this learning.
yes.
So how
So,
do go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Well, so how do so one of the things that I always strove to do with my mom was to give her as much quality of life as possible
Mhm,
without dragging out dying from Alzheimer's. So I was not, you know, was not interested in doing things to prevent, like had she gotten pneumonia, we'd
mhm.
had this conversation in my household. So my husband and I and my daughter, and I said, if your grandmother gets or my mom gets um pneumonia, I can still it's like you think it was Monday the way my brain's working today.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not gonna like do antibiotics and make her well because that's just prolonging dying from Alzheimer's when she could simply just pass
Pass
away
it.
from something. I don't know, as simple as is probably the wrong phrase, but something like all or pneumonia. And thankfully I didn't ever have to make that choice because I told them, as I said, because if this, I'm telling you guys, because if this ever happens, one, I knew I'd have to battle my sister because we couldn't agree on anything to save our souls. And it was my mother. So, like, push comes to shove, I wasn't sure I could actually follow through with that
Mhm,
thought. And I knew it was a logical, sound reason.
mhm.
We can argue whether other people would do that or not. I did not have to make that choice. I did have to make the choice. She fell March 8th, 2020, and broke her leg.
Mhm.
And of course, I got to deal with all the doctors on the phone. Even though I was in the hospital with her,
Didn't
I'm
matter.
talking to the,
I know when the pandemic hit, it shut us all down.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was a wild week because it was right at the time where we were going from, yeah, this is a thing that's going on somewhere else to, holy crap, it's happening here. Like
right.
literally, we went from what COVID, huh? That's something going on in China to lockdowns in California within a week. So it was like bonkers.
Yeah.
And she was going to need physical therapy, whether we did the surgery to repair the leg or not. And I was very concerned about the surgery and the anesthesia because somebody with advanced Alzheimer's, I'm like,
Deadens it even more.
well, yeah, I was like, the
Those
chances of,
chemicals. Yeah.
Lord only knows how she is when she wakes up. We already have issues because of the Alzheimer's. We may make them worse. Maybe she, gets nicer. I don't know, but I was not really willing to risk it. I just
Mhm.
didn't think, and I was really concerned. I'm like, I don't know how. Like she didn't even know her leg was broken, even though it was
Yeah.
it was immobilized. And I thought, I just this doesn't seem like the right thing to do. And thankfully, the orthopedic surgeon didn't push because sometimes they like to do that. He said she's going to need physical therapy one way or the other. I said, great, I'll have a PT person, work with her. She flatly refused. And I was like, and this was before the lockdowns, but we were starting to have heightened attention to COVID. And she literally fought him off like he was some sort of masher. And I thought, I am not paying $150 time to have to come and sit with you to try to coerce you politely into working with. No, I am not interested in that. And then it wouldn't have worked anyway because I wouldn't have been able to do that. So we didn't do the surgery. was very glad because that was March 8th when she broke it, and she passed away March 31st, like 2.5 weeks.
It was their
So,
time. You know, we as humans, we're finite,
mhm.
and we sometimes want to be infinite.
Yeah.
And just to be in that process, first of all, to have known your mom what her wishes were, if that was ever communicated.
Mm.
It may not have been. It was a different era sometimes, we can say. But the bottom line is to feel that we are doing everything, we're doing the best we know how, period, no matter what, and give ourselves a pass to continue the process of questioning and learning. So you had asked a couple of things. Well, how does this affect a person? The Feldenkrais method or somatics. Somatics means of the body and of the mind. They're two sides of a coin, like sun and moon. They can't be separate. We have two sides of our nervous system, sympathetic nervous system. That's, we're talking, we're activated, we're doing. And we can have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, digest, all of those oxytocin, light, nice things. When we're dealing, so the Feldenkrais method is the hands-on and it's the classes where we help guide you. Subtle things that are developmental movements, you start where the person is. It helps improve the way they breathe. They breathe better, they're going to digest better. Brain function can improve a little bit. With people that are starting to fall or deep into dementia, Alzheimer's, it's happened from Parkinson's, any of these things, bring them back to where they remember. Awaken for them because they do have memory. That's where they live. And I shared with you earlier this study that was done in England, and I don't remember the woman's name. I will look to get that for you, where they took people that were failing, they were having health issues anywhere from probably their 50s or 60s to their 90s. And they sequestered them in a lovely environment, a living community, which brought them into the era that they knew, the clothing, the decorations, the food, the music. It revitalized them. They could communicate amongst themselves and get back into this place where they didn't have all the pain or the diagnoses or the things that scared them. And after the period of time, 2 weeks to a month, previously they checked all their biomarkers. Every one of them had increased in age improvement 10 to 15 years, simply by being in an environment that awoke in them the positiveness, the joy, and fed off of that. So I've been involved, and clients, friends, family with the Alzheimer's or the dementia, whatever, and how to find a connection. That's what we're looking to do. Make the connection, connect with them, find where all of a sudden you see it in their eyes, you see it in their breathing. They came alive. It may not be for long, but each time you can help this place where all of a sudden you can bring to their attention, oh, we're breathing better, we're laughing, talk about something, we'll sing, we'll do the things where they're oxygenating their system, help them move better if they can move, or you help move them in a very gentle way that it is not resistance or pushing into resistance. So when I work with a person, and I'm always with them, not on them or done to them, I'm looking for where there's an entranceway of ease. What do they already do? That I can help them do it even easier because they're not aware they're still using too much effort. And because they're doing it with so much effort, they're not aware of it. They've locked out other areas that they can't move because it's barred. For instance, I'm a big fitness buff, but I think anything that we do so obsessively is a problem. So I've had many people, many women get so locked into their Pilates that they're constantly flexing and holding and pushing like that. Well, they're going to have an accident because they're already in a pattern that would make them fall.
Mm.
It's perfect if you have to bend down and pick something up. It's not going to be so good when you have to come up if you're doing all of that holding. It's not going to be good if all of a sudden, as we mentioned, we have our dogs and we love them and they come and they sideblind you.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, and you're off your balance. You fall like an oak tree instead of being like a willow. So I give these metaphors and analogies, but I work with people to help improve the quality of their life. They have to have their experience. I can't have it. I have my experience. But because of my experiences, I know it's possible. We have a saying, make the impossible possible. And that means it's not with effort and duress. Make that possible easy. Make the easy pleasant, and if you so choose, make it elegant. but it's on that spectrum of growth. So if I'm forcing and trying to do something, or people come to me and they're doing their PT exercises, and I worked in a PT office for 12 years, a hospital for 9, and a fitness tennis arena for 11. Then pandemic COVID hit and that all stopped, which is fine, because it had its reasons and it had its seasons. It wasn't going to be a lifetime. And I constantly saw there was a disconnect. One is from the outside fixing you, looking at what the insurances will pay, how I have to write it or it has to be written so it complies, it's compliant. And then I said, wait a minute. Now here's the riddle. If Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall and Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again, what do you do? Because that's us. And our medical model, God bless, is all the king's horses and all the king's men, which still have blinders on. Not all of them. I mean, God bless our medical model, and I want to be so respectful for everything that they've gone through and still going through, because they have been devastated, absolutely devastated with stress and dresses and treatment and everything like that. But when we have blinders on, that we don't recognize just our Western allopathic approach, we don't look to the history of the antiquity, prior centuries, millennium prior to us, and learn from them, we've closeted ourselves to a whole arena. It's like we have blinders on, like the horse. I can only see here. And if I turn, I can only see there. I can't see the whole panorama to recognize what's going on that I can choose from and learn from. And so that's what I do. I'm bringing, so all of these other approaches, modalities that I am skilled in, craniosacral therapy, lymph drainage therapy, some of the ones that were more aggressive, I've learned, but it's not really for me. The strain counter strain, that's often done in PT, or it's often called, it was called strain counter strain or positional release therapy. I've trained in a lot of the therapies. I'm a hypnotherapist, a master practitioner of NLP. I'm a learner. And each time I said, I don't need to go further in that modality approach. I get it. It's in me and it informs me. So I keep learning instead of somebody has to tell me what to do, and that's the template. The template is fine to start with. It gives you boundaries, especially people who get scared. I need a grappling hook. I need a boundary. Fine. Let's give them, but with space to breathe, space to have a little wiggle room, like take one little step over this way, and then you can come back. Not a huge giant step, one baby step. So the learning happens where it integrates. You assimilate. I'm an assimilator. That's why from all of these modalities, which are wonderful, but I integrate them into how I work with someone, how I facilitate them waking up. They don't want to wake up. That's the client. Get on the table. Where do one want the lesson right now? I had one client, a doctor, high up doctor in genome. We used to be with FDA. And when she came to me, she couldn't sleep. She couldn't lie down. She was in so much excruciating pain. 10 minutes, she was up walking the halls. So her first lessons were standing, using a little inflatable blue ball to help have balance and shift, and then walk around and then balance and shift. And then eventually we could get her lying down without that triggering of pain, because there was so much wired, coiled, the old-fashioned kitchen phones, right?
Yes.
And we in the kid, and they were usually olive green or a gold
Yeah,
color.
uh
Those colors,
yeah,
yeah.
there was the avocado green and
Avocado
the
green and the harvest
harvest
gold or whatever.
gold.
Right.
Oh
But
Lord.
it would have that very, very, very long cord.
Yep.
And we'd be walking around the kitchen with it holding to our ear and everything like that. And then it's like, oh, it's all squinched up. So you can try to stretch it, but it is a natural coil like a slinky. And the minute you let go, it recoils even tighter. So what do? You stand on a chair or a step stool and you hang the receiver down and let it uncoil itself. And then all of a sudden it has its natural coil that it's supposed to have, but it's not all caught up and tight. Well, that's what happens to a nervous system with the stresses and too much resistance. Resistance begets resistance. I say we have to deal with that because that's survival. And
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with many people who are survivalists. They are what they have gone through, what in a long-term relationship you don't understand until there's a relationship and they can begin to recognize, remember, and disclose the unbelievable atrocities that were done to them, that they are now coming to terms with. They're not crazy, but their nervous system protected them until they could come to this place, they could cope with it, they could deal with it and begin baby steps to learn. So it's about learning. And if a person wants to learn, I'm there to facilitate.
Well, where would you suggest a listener start? I just had a new member in my support group that I facilitate. Her
Mhm.
dad is in like the late, early to the middle stages of Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
He's still living on his own. I think he's still driving. And, but she has caregivers that come in and check on him and do things for him. And, she would like to move him closer, but
Mhm.
he's happy where he's at. And it's like, so she's kind of at that turmoil right there. It was like, well, do I do what he knows, or do I do what's beneficial to me? I told her that you have to consider the entire family,
Yeah.
because it affects the entire family. And if you just focus on, well, dad wants to stay home, so we're going to do that for as long as possible, that may be detrimental to everybody, including dad. So,
Yeah. You
um,
have to balance it. It really is a balancing act.
and it's
And it's,
hard.
I know, believe me, I do know. I do know.
Yeah.
Because we all have these experiences in our life, whether they're direct or indirect, that affect us. And at some point, we each have to, as you said, consider all of the possibilities, the options, cause and effect, and make the hard decisions that sometimes have to be made. So you asked how. Now, because I'm on the East Coast and I work virtual now that started with the pandemic, so I see people around the world, but I would really suggest that if you're in California or other places, there are areas that are full of Feldenkrais practitioners where they can reach out to them, see who's available, who's interested in coming to work with others that would be able to enhance sharing some awareness through movement lessons, their awareness through movement. So, would you like to have a little experience right now?
Sure.
Okay. So, are you seated?
Mm-hmm.
Are you in a wheelie chair?
Yes.
Okay. So, we want to make sure, because I am too, that you're not really having the chair do it. So, you
Okay.
place your feet somewhere squared off underneath you so that your heels are more or less underneath your knee joint.
Okay,
You
I
can
can do that.
back away yourself a little bit and
Yeah.
then just sit upright. Now, very slowly turn and look to one side. Go slow. Good. Now, inhale, come back to the middle. And as you exhale, turn and go to the other side. Good. Now come back. So you went, did you go to your end range as far as you could go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would now say the next time, the first side you went to was to your right, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So was that easier than going to the left?
I think they're about equal. I'd have to
Okay.
do it again and think about it.
All right. So now whatever one, go to the right, but go shy of where it's the maximum.
Okay.
Now come back maybe a quarter of an inch. Stay there. Now look down, look up, look down. When you look up, let your mouth open a little bit. Look down. The mouth will naturally close. Look up. Now start to describe a circle as if the tip of your nose was going to be turning a minute hand or an hour hand around the clock. And just make a circle. That's it. That's it.
I do mobility classes in
Yeah.
Peloton
Okay.
because I do
Now
almost
reverse the
every
circle. Now
other
reverse the
circle.
circle. Okay.
Um,
No, 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 don't. You'll tell me that later. Wait a minute.
okay.
And now come back to the middle. Now, as you exit, now stay here. Take your right shoulder back and your left shoulder forward. And then bring them
Actually
back
feels
to
really
neutral.
good.
Oh, so go where it's easy.
Oh no, it felt good.
Oh, good, good. Okay. And
That's
then
probably
come
because
back.
I did. Full body weight class this
That's
morning.
okay. And take the right shoulder back and the left forward.
Oh, the other way.
Oh, you reversed it. Okay. I didn't
Oh,
say
that feels
reverse it, but it's okay.
okay.
Take the right shoulder back, the left shoulder forward. Good. Now come back to neutral. Look up, look down. When you look up, open your mouth a little bit. That's it. Look down. Now come back to the middle, the neutral. Close your eyes. As you exhale, rotate around yourself to the right. Take your right shoulder back, your left shoulder forward as you do it.
Head too.
Yes, head, eyes to the right.
Oh, that feels really good.
Open your eyes. Did you get more degrees of rotation?
I think so. Yes.
Yes, that's how we play. So the first you did was to the maximum.
Mm-hmm.
I don't judge. I noticed because there's a way there isn't as smooth of fluid a movement. So I had you then come back from the maximum, make some other movements in different planes of action. What's the difference when you look up versus holding your mouth shut versus opening it a little bit? Well, that has to do with more of the anatomy because this is where we start eating, and that's like the baby, that's where everything comes out. So there's a whole connection. This is an anti-gravitational group of muscles, as is our eyelids. But when we encourage, like a yawn, feel what else happened in your chest.
It opens up.
Yes,
The ribs expand.
yes.
One of my favorite Peloton instructors ends his cycling classes with he used to be a Buddhist monk.
Hmm.
Peloton instructors all seem to have very interesting backgrounds. His is the most interesting, but he'll there's some leg stretches you do, but he always says to look up or look to the right and then to the left, look up together, look down together, and look straight ahead and smile.
Hmm.
And you're always doing like hands at prayer, which I can't do because the mic's in the way. But it kind of reminded me of that. And it's like that's always a really nice way to end the classes. And then of course, I personally do at least a 10-minute full body stretch dang near every day. Should
Make
do it.
sure that that full body stretch is easy and all of you
Mm-hmm.
versus static.
Yeah, they do static and dynamic stretches.
So be careful
And
of the static. That's where you can injure yourself in joint capsules, in because in stretching, if we overstretch, and that's what we've accustomed to now. So I speak about elongating versus stretching because we overstretch. You actually, a muscle has usually two attachments. Its origin and insertion, which change. All right. If you overstretch it, you're actually damaging the fibers because it can only really stretch appropriately to the bones it's connected to. If you overstretch it, it's just like I was talking about on that phone where you're
mm-hmm.
trying to pull it and you let go of it and it recoils even tighter. So make sure when you're doing your stretching, especially if it's static stretching, be careful. This is where I have had too many clients come to me, they broke their toys.
Mm.
That means there are surgeries that are going to happen. And once those surgeries happen because they pushed the limit to their system, there wasn't an intuitive awareness of, wait a minute, that they went beyond. And I worked with one woman, beautiful woman, unbelievably flexible, and always found fault it wasn't good enough. And she had done a straddle and then took her feet, her ankles, and hyper flexed them, and then took her hands and grabbed her toes and pulled
Ooh,
more. And she ripped the labrums that were shredding in both of her hip joints, and she needed hip resurfacing.
that's no fun.
So, but why do we do that? I've worked with muscle men, weight builders and everything like that, and they've pulled and pulled in their shoulder girdle, which is very mobile, but not it's very flexible, but it doesn't have the stability. And they tore ligaments and tendons. And we remember Joe Namath, where
Mm-hmm.
he totally tore the Achilles tendon, which goes all the way up to your hamstrings at your sitting bones.
Yeah, that's
So,
gotta hurt like crazy.
yeah, so I'm saying we overdo no pain, no gain. We're Americans, not everybody that I work with is, but it's no pain, no gain. Suck it up, just do it. No, that's not an intelligent brain. An intelligent brain starts to pause and go, wait a minute, my nervous system gives me some kind of a hit, an indication. Why am I not listening? Why am I tuning out? That's what we've been cultured to do. Tune out, dissociate. I'm saying come back in. So I'm saying for anybody we're caregiving for of whatever concern, if we're caregiving, there is a concern, tune in and tune into them and find where in their experiences you can help awaken them for some lucidity. It may not last long, but each time you can tap into it and find it, you find them again. They come
Mm-hmm.
back. Maybe they're scared. I've known more men, not always, but some get very angry because when they get lucid again, they're angry. They're out of control. Then we have to find a way to come to terms with that and help them, help themselves where they can. But I never give up. And it was a little girl that said to Churchill, never, never give up. It was not Churchill. It was a little girl that he met, I don't know, in some transport. And she was talking to him and she said, you never give up. And he adopted that saying. So I talk about instead of rehabbing, because that's a very insurance limited, let's try to get you where you were before. No, rehabilitate yourself. Learn how to learn skills, honing skills. That's what we're doing. And and I remember there was an era when it was all industry, or it was the miners and Detroit with the cars, and all of a sudden that way of life that was you were steeped in it in family. It's what the whole family did. You were reared in it. It ended, and they weren't able to re-educate, learn to find another career. I'm too old or I can't. Their limit was in their thinking. They
Mm-hmm.
stopped dreaming. Stop dreaming. Always dream because what you focus on is what you bring to you. So if you're focused on something that is to the negative, so I say this, if the thought you're having right now, is it positive? Is it negative? Is it neutral? It could be one of those three. If that thought were to generate your future, would you want to pause for a moment and reevaluate how you're thinking and shift it?
Definitely.
And so that's what I'm saying. We can all, especially now in this era, what's going on, we can all get into the point where we just lose it. No, we have control. The only thing we can control is us.
Mm-hmm.
And those of us that are supporting another, we still have to take care of ourselves first so that we don't lose it. We don't aggress on somebody that we don't mean to, we don't want to, because we've lost it. We don't have the energy. We're exhausted. We're spent. And that's what I'm saying. In any of these, pushing it to the limit, you spend yourself, you injure yourself. And it's a choice because you don't realize you have another option. So the awareness through movement lessons for I taught through one of the hospitals here. Now Johns Hopkins has bought it up, but it was a memorial hospital. And I would teach for Parkinson's because I would help them understand their strategies instead of, well, this just happened to me. Well, it does. This is the dance of life with assaults and injuries, but we are here. So how do you keep making it better? Because there are strategies, there are ways, little bits at a time, baby steps, and it's exponential. You improve one aspect, maybe you're breathing, you have more energy, you have more focus, you can digest better, you sleep better. Everything exponentially improves, but it's subtle, yet it's so significant. And it's only when we can turn around and look back and go, oh, that's where I started. Look where I'm at now. I can't believe that. Instead of putting a time frame on it, which is what our insurances do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Oh,
worked, yeah.
well, we do that to ourselves. So I keep bumping the mic, sorry. Another Peloton instructor, they all have taglines. Hers is progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection. You hear it all the time, especially in the weight training and the stretching. You know, there's one instructor that talks about he doesn't like stretching and he's not very good at it. He's not very flexible. And they're very good at not motivating you past where you should. I mean, you can motivate yourself past where you should go, but they're very good at explaining, you know, or if your muscles are like fighting back while you're stretching, just take a deep breath and let your muscles know it's okay. Everything's fine. We're not. It's not fight or flight here. Just take it, and it's amazing. You take a deep breath and you exhale slowly, and you can actually, the tension in the muscles starts to release. You're not doing anything different. It's just the breathing. It's just amazing.
Well,
So
but you are doing something different because what you were not aware of, I'm not saying you, but the person, is they weren't breathing. They were holding their breath.
that's
And so
true.
that's what I can recognize. I'll say to a person, they go to lie down on the table or they go to sit down and they fall. And I go, "Oh, did you hold your breath?" And they go, "Probably." Well, of course they did. We've tuned out. So what we're asking is, who better to tune into than yourself? And think about the things you're thinking. Are they negative? Because what you focus on, you bring to you. Dream, dream. What would you like to dream of? Make it come to true because it does. Look at all the, I'll never forget seeing 2001 A Space Odyssey and the monolith. And it became, oh, that's corporatocracy. That's the domination of the very extremists that want to manipulate and control. And you see it happen. And right away, I made that metaphor, that analogy that long ago. And then I saw it play out. We can look at, if you imagine these movies like we've watched, and then some semblance of that actually surfaced in real life. Absolutely.
That is
So
true.
you've got to pay attention to what you think, what you focus on, because what you focus on is an energy that comes right back at you like a boomerang. So I often say, from a need, we have to find the curiosity instead of just give up. From that curiosity, you have to start to observe not only what am I doing, but how am I doing it? And take the judgment out of it as right or wrong. It's what you were conditioned or was imposed on you, learned. Keep learning. From that observation, then we start these explorations, like I gave you a little bit of example, how to just very slowly connect to what you were doing and how you were doing. And then from there, you can make comparisons. You can go back to the first way you did it and then, oh, now I'm doing it so different. More of you was invited passively, reflexively to participate, unless there's an intentional constraint you chose. And there is. I don't like driving, looking at the navs and everything like that because my focus is away from here. So I already want to have an idea of where I'm going or have a naver with me, or I'll drive and you navigate or whatever. Because we can multitask, we actually can, but
Mm-hmm.
in fact, it's not simultaneous, it's sequential. And so what's wavering is that sequential of where our attention went here and then it's here and there's. And so there's another thing. Your hands are on the steering wheel and you go avert your eyes a little to the right to see your nav. Your hands just move the steering wheel to the right.
Yep.
I've known people to have car accidents that way. So we're not aware of it, but just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean it's not happening. So we're bringing awareness. That's why it's awareness through a movement, which means I've got to slow it down or else I go into my hardwired patterns. When I was working at the fitness arena, even the hospital, the PT office, everybody would say, well, is it like yoga? Is it like Pilates? Is it like, and it was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is how I'm going to answer it. Have you, Jen, ever eaten a mango?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if somebody says, what does it taste like?
It's sweet, a little bit tangy.
So then they're going to start making comparisons. Well, sweet. Is it sweet like a? And they're going to list the things they know. And all you're going to sit there and go, is it like a peach? No. Is it like a papaya? No. Is it like a cantaloupe? No. Is it like, you're going to keep saying no. So they have to have an experience. And the only time I would say is, oh, are you allergic to anything like keratin, carotenoids, or, or you have to ask some of those questions now, wheat or stuff like that. But they have to have an experience. So in Feldenkrais or somatics, that's why I wanted to give you a little experience to compare. If you do it too fast, you're in your old hardwired habit. You can't not because it's too fast. You can't track what you're doing. So I have black Labradors, they're retrievers. And you can actually watch them in the woods sometimes because I have them off lead. And you can watch them go into a pointer stance. And they are absolutely glued to what they're looking at. And they can stealthily move. This would be creeping.
Mm-hmm.
Crawling, actually, if we talk it within developmental movements, is really when we're still on our bellies. We've changed. Oh, we call that no creeping. We call the crawling on all fours. Well, actually, think of creeping like that tiger or lion or your dogs, the pointers, looking stealthily for their game. They're focused on that. But everything else in their body is ready to work. The baby is still trying to figure out how to get off of the belly once they got to the belly and how to organize. And it's usually not going to be first through the arms because they're weaker. It's going to be through their pelvis that wants to go up into the air.
That's what my daughter did. She was always like a little triangle. I'm like,
That's it.
that's not
Where do
gonna
we get
work,
downward
kid.
facing dog from? Our dogs do it all the time. And so we replicate the downward facing dog, but we go to the stretch and we're hurting ourselves. Just play. So in Feldenkrais, why some people would say yoga, well, many of them are martial artists or dancers or big into yoga. So I go, when we want to do, like, for instance, if you know pigeon, and many
Mhm.
people might not know it, or chair pose, or warrior pose, whatever it is, we play with it instead of it's static and forcing to hold into the resistance. We make movements within it to shift, keeping the breathing going, and then come away from it and come back into it, come away. It's a movement process, which is, and downward facing dog is not an asana, it's a movement pattern. An
Mhm.
asana would be one basic static tree or chair, or even cobra is moving into a movement and coming away from it. You go in and you come out, and you want the movement to be fluid and even in any direction. That's the ideal. So when you spoke about perfect before, it does exist. It's a moment in time that we recognize from the past. Because I'm telling you, I sang opera, and there were times it was magic, it was perfection, but it wasn't all the time. So we can't, then we're always failing. If you're striving for perfect, and I was, so you're always failing. So if you want to strive, I take striving out of it. I go, oh, make it possible, make it easy, make it pleasant, elegant. Oh, that's going to be in that realm where it's like the stars have aligned and everything is just easy. If it's easy, it's efficient. If it's hard, it's not efficient. The timing of your coordination, your breathing is compromised.
I believe that. I've done some downward dogs where it's like, I hate this.
And if you hate it, don't do it. I would bring
Mhm.
a person into it in a different organization, in a different orientation, so that they didn't feel through gravity, because our skeleton is there to support us in gravity, so we don't feel the 14 pounds of arcing weight of the gravitational force on us. When we feel it, oh my God, do we feel it? We're flexed, we're folded, we're muscular. You want to find the balance that the muscles, which are the privates in the military, directed by our brains, move the skeleton. That's how it happens. So we slow the process down.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely has given the listeners a lot to think about. And
I invite anybody to reach out to me, whether it's, you don't live near me, but you want some resources where you live, or you want to talk. You want to feel heard, that I get it, because I do. Then I'm there for you. If you're curious, you reach out. You can give them my emails, my websites, my phone number. I'm also on WhatsApp for people that are not, you know, in an area where they can make a telephone call, but they want to talk. You just share from where you met me, and I'm there to share with you. And I will do the research for areas where you live if you're interested in finding someone to have an experience.
well, I would be stunned if there's not a lot of practitioners like you in California, especially in the San Francisco Bay Area.
They are. I can give you names, an endless list of names. I mean, they're there. And you can go to the Feldenkrais Guild of North America and look in your area, call them. I say to people, call, have a conversation, feel if you resonate with them. Because there are many practitioners, and each one of us integrate, assimilate from our previous careers. Some of them started in their teens and their 20s, and this was it. Some of them were PTs, And they said, this is not complete. And they went into Feldenkrais. Some of them are scientists, martial arts people, performers. You know, Zach Perlman does Feldenkrais all the time. They're unbelievable stories of world-renowned people that people would know. Yo-Yo Ma does Feldenkrais because when you are doing repetitive strain, so to speak, patterns constantly, people constantly on their devices, all flexed and folded over, you're gonna have muscular issues. How do you balance out? And you don't have to do the same amount of hours you sit in front of a computer, devices, but you do have to do it with awareness so you can reset yourself.
Well, I can attest to I when I do them, and I really should do it more frequently, a 20 or 30-minute evening stretch is designed to wind your system down and
Mhm.
prepare you for sleep. And I've
Mhm.
learned brush your teeth, get the bed turned down, get everything ready because you're ready to just put your
That's
head on the
right.
pillow. And if you
That's
got to do all those other maintenance
They've
things,
interfered with it.
yeah, now you got to like almost start over. And it is amazing
Yeah.
how well you sleep when you've
Yeah.
done those stretches, how good you feel, how you feel, you wake up feeling better. It's just like, ugh, I really should do them every day, but
Just let everything be connected. That's what I say, because we are, but we don't know that connection. So many approaches just go to the targeted area, which is already under high assault. We don't start at the targeted area. I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there indirectly, which is what the difference was between Freud and Milton Erickson, the father of hypnotherapy. I trained under Milton Erickson's philosophy, which is go indirect. Don't compromise the person, don't demand, don't dictate. Suss out the information. There's so much information. Look at how they're breathing, look at their coloration. Where do they look? How are they sitting? How do they move? That's information. How do they smell? That's info. Don't judge it, but that is information coming into you, the observer, how you get a window in to help support this person for a little improvement. One little improvement exponentially spreads.
that is true.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. And the listeners, in case you don't remember, all the resources we've talked about are in the show notes. They're all hot links. Just hit the little blue words and it'll take you wherever it is that you want to go. And I really appreciate Peggy explaining all of this to us. It's amazing how what you're doing ties in with a lot of the things that I'm doing. So, like, yay, I'm doing some things right.
Right.
And I wish I'd known how to do them with my mom. But that's why I still do this show because
That's
I'm
it.
still learning good things, then the guests are learning good things,
That's
or
it.
the listeners.
Strategies. You're learning, and that's endless learning. Strategies to apply, and we have to make mistakes. So make the mistakes small instead of the huge ones that take you out, and learn from them. That's how we learn. That's how we grow.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we develop muscular tissue. You don't want to tear it to shreds so it's no longer going to be potent. It has these tiny little ways of enhancing the quality of being tonified or overdo it and then you lose all your flexibility. We need both stability and mobility. And our breathing is the first and foremost. That is the breath of life that moves through us. So, with someone who is more bedridden or less able, I'm going to start with their breathing, always with their breathing and yawning. Yawning is tease out a yawn, learn how to tease it out. It's the first way to return a sympathetic nervous system into a parasympathetic nervous system, and it's contagious. Laugh. Things that make you laugh instead of cry, because there's enough of that too.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I know my dog gives me laughs. I've seen yours running around the background. So
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully the people who watch this on YouTube, hopefully they're getting a little extra from the doggy benefit. And
Yeah.
again, I appreciate all your wisdom.
I thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And it's been lovely to be with you today.